At the glittering engagement party meant to celebrate love, billionaire Adrian Vale stunned every guest by doing the unthinkable. He dumped his poor fiancée, Elena, in front of flashing cameras, wealthy relatives, and gossip-hungry strangers. But the humiliation cut even deeper when he announced he was choosing her own sister instead, the same sister who smiled as Elena's world collapsed. Shattered, Elena fled the ballroom with tears in her eyes, vowing never to look back. Then, just minutes later, screams erupted from the garden. Adrian's little daughter had wandered away from her nanny and was trapped in a dangerous accident no one saw coming. While everyone froze in panic, Elena rushed forward without hesitation and saved the child's life. Adrian should have felt relief. Instead, what he noticed afterward left him speechless. The little girl clung to Elena as if she already knew her. A hidden truth began to unravel, one tied to betrayal, family secrets, and a past Adrian had never questioned. By the end of the night, the billionaire who thought he controlled everything discovered he had been the one deceived all along, and everyone at the party was left shocked. The shock did not end with Lily's rescue. It began there. The garden behind the Vale mansion had been transformed into a dream for the engagement party. White roses climbed temporary arches. Crystal lanterns hung from ancient oak trees. A string quartet had played beneath a glass pavilion until the announcement in the ballroom silenced every instrument and every smile. Now the music was gone. Only the rush of panicked voices filled the air. "Lily!" Adrian's voice cracked as he ran across the wet stone path toward the reflecting pool. His polished shoes slipped once, but he caught himself on a marble statue and kept moving. His guests poured onto the terrace behind him, expensive gowns and tailored suits gathering like a frightened crowd at the edge of a stage. Elena knelt beside the little girl on the grass. Her dress was soaked from the waist down. Her hair, pinned so carefully an hour earlier, had fallen loose around her face. One shoulder of her pale blue gown was torn where it had snagged on the low iron gate she had climbed over to reach Lily. But Elena did not seem to notice any of it. She had one arm wrapped around the child, and the other hand pressed gently to Lily's back, whispering something Adrian could not hear. Lily coughed and began to cry. It was the most beautiful sound Adrian had ever heard. He dropped to his knees in front of them. "Lily, baby, look at me, are you hurt?" His daughter turned her face away from him and buried it against Elena's shoulder. Adrian froze. Lily was 5 years old, small for her age, with dark curls and solemn grey eyes that always seemed too serious for a child. Since losing her mother, she had become quiet around strangers. She did not like crowds, did not like sudden noises, and almost never let anyone outside her small circle touch her. Yet now she was clinging to Elena, as if Elena were the only safe thing in the world. "It's okay," Elena murmured. "Breathe slowly, little moon, in and out, you're safe." Adrian's breath caught. Little moon. No one called Lily that. No one except. He stopped the thought before it fully formed. It was impossible. It had to be a coincidence. Behind him, Bianca stepped onto the path, her emerald silk dress untouched, her diamond earrings flashing under the garden lights. She looked pale, but not from fear. Her expression was tight with annoyance, as though Lily's accident had interrupted a performance she had rehearsed for months. "Elena," Bianca said sharply, "give the child to her father, you've done enough." Elena did not move. Lily's fingers tightened around Elena's torn dress. Adrian saw it, so did Bianca. For one strange second, the entire garden seemed to hold its breath. Then Mrs. Hargrove, Lily's nanny, stumbled forward, crying. "I only turned away for a moment. I thought she was with the other children. I'm so sorry, Mr. Vale, I'm so sorry." Adrian barely heard her. His eyes were on Elena. Only minutes earlier, he had humiliated her in front of everyone. He had stood beneath a chandelier worth more than the house Elena had grown up in and told the world that their engagement was over. He had accused her of lying to him, of using him, of hiding things about her past. He had believed the documents Bianca showed him. He had believed the messages, the photographs, the whispered warnings from people who claimed Elena was not what she seemed. And then, when Elena had looked at him with tears in her eyes and said, "Adrian, please, don't do this," he had hardened his heart. He had told himself she was acting. Now she was soaked, shaking, and holding his daughter alive in her arms. "Let me take her," Adrian said softly. Elena looked at him for the first time since the ballroom. There was pain in her eyes, yes, but there was something colder beneath it now, something he had never seen in her before. "Distance her." "You can," she said, but slowly, "she's frightened." Adrian nodded. He reached out, and Lily whimpered. Elena whispered again, "It's Daddy's sweetheart, he's scared too." That did something to Adrian's chest. Lily finally turned. Adrian gathered her carefully into his arms. She trembled against him, but her eyes stayed fixed on Elena. "Miss Elena," Lily whispered. The words were so faint, almost no one heard them. But Adrian did. So did Bianca. Bianca's face changed. Not much, just a flicker, a quick flash of alarm before she covered it with a sweet, concerned smile. "Elena was lucky she happened to be nearby," Bianca said, "but we should get Lily inside. The poor child needs a doctor." "Already called," said a guest from behind them. "They're sending one from the private clinic." Adrian stood with Lily in his arms. His mind was still spinning, but his instincts took over. Clear the library, bring towels, and someone find Dr. Marin. She was invited tonight. Several staff members rushed to obey. Elena tried to stand, but her knees buckled. Adrian reached for her without thinking. She pulled away before he could touch her. "I'm fine," she said. "Elena." No, her voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise. "Take care of your daughter." Then she turned and walked toward the side entrance, leaving a trail of water on the stone path. Adrian watched her go. The woman he had cast aside had saved the one person he loved most in the world. And for the first time that night, he wondered if he had made the worst mistake of his life. Inside, the Vale mansion had become divided between spectacle and crisis. In the ballroom, guests whispered behind champagne glasses. Some were shocked by Lily's accident. Others were still devouring the scandal of Adrian rejecting one sister and choosing another in the same breath. A few had already sent messages to reporters waiting beyond the estate gates. In the library, Lily sat wrapped in a blanket near the fireplace while Dr. Marin examined her. Adrian crouched beside the chair, one hand on Lily's knee, unable to look away from her face. "She is shaken, but she appears stable," Dr. Marin said after several careful minutes. "She needs rest, warmth, and quiet, no more excitement tonight." Adrian nodded, "Thank you." Dr. Marin studied him over the rim of her glasses, and perhaps fewer parties. He accepted the criticism because he deserved it. Lily leaned against the chair, sleepy now, her curls damp at her temples. "Where's Miss Elena?" she asked. Adrian glanced at Bianca, who stood near the bookshelves with her arms folded. "Miss Elena went to change," Bianca answered before he could. "You don't need to worry about her." Lily frowned. "I want her." Bianca's smile tightened. "Darling, your father is here." "I want Miss Elena." Adrian brushed a curl away from Lily's forehead. "I'll ask her to come." Bianca stepped forward. "Adrian, I really don't think that's appropriate, after everything you discovered." His head snapped up. "My daughter asked for her." Bianca stopped. It was the first time all night he had spoken to her with anything other than warmth. A knock came at the library door. Adrian's butler, Mr. Clive, entered with a troubled expression. "Sir, Miss Elena is in the east sitting room. Mrs. Greer is with her." Elena's mother. Adrian had met Maura Greer only twice. She was elegant in a faded way, always wearing pearls and an expression of long-suffering pride. She had spoken often about how hard it was to raise Elena, how Elena had always been difficult, secretive, ungrateful. Bianca, by contrast, had been described as the responsible daughter, the beautiful one, the loyal one. Tonight, Adrian had believed that story completely. Now doubt began to move through him like a crack through ice. "What are they doing?" he asked. Mr. Clive hesitated, "Arguing, sir." Bianca gave a soft sigh. "My mother is probably trying to calm Elena down. Elena has always been dramatic." Lily's small hand tightened on Adrian's sleeve. "She saved me," Lily said. No one answered. Adrian stood. "Stay with Dr. Maron," he told Lily. "I'll bring Elena." Bianca moved to block him. "Adrian, please, this night has already been difficult enough. You don't owe her anything." He looked at her then. Really looked. Bianca had been beautiful to him an hour ago. Not in the deep, quiet way Elena was beautiful, but in a dazzling way that drew attention and kept it. She knew how to stand beneath lights. She knew how to laugh at exactly the right moment. She knew how to make every person in the room feel she had chosen them for a secret. But now Adrian saw the calculation beneath the shimmer. "Lily does," he said. He left before Bianca could reply. The east sitting room was smaller than the ballroom, but no less grand. Its walls were lined with pale silk. A grand piano stood near the window, and a vase of white lilies sat on a table beneath a portrait of Adrian's grandfather. Elena stood near the fireplace, wrapped in a servant's grey shawl. Her wet dress clung to her legs. Her face was pale, but her chin was lifted. Mora Greer stood in front of her, whispering harshly. "You stupid girl," Mora hissed. "Do you understand what you've done? You could have walked away with dignity, but no, you had to make a scene." Elena laughed once, without humor. "Saving a child is making a scene. You always twist things. I pulled her out of the water. And now he'll pity you. Is that what you wanted?" Elena stared at her mother. "You watched him humiliate me." Moira's mouth pressed into a thin line. "You brought it on yourself. A girl with secrets should not accept a billionaire's proposal." Adrian stopped just outside the doorway. "Secrets?" Elena's voice dropped. "What secrets, mother?" Moira's expression shifted. "Don't start." "No, tell me, what did Bianca show him?" "Enough." "What did she show him?" Moira looked away. Elena stepped closer. "Was it about the baby?" The room went silent. Adrian felt the blood drain from his face. "The baby." Moira's eyes flashed. "Keep your voice down." Elena's voice trembled, but she did not lower it. "You told me she died." Adrian gripped the doorframe. Moira took a sharp breath. "This is not the place. You told me my daughter died before I could hold her." "Elena." No, Elena's pain filled the room, raw and old and terrible. "I was 19. I was scared. I trusted you. You took me to that clinic, and when I woke up, you told me she was gone. You wouldn't even let me see her. You said there was no grave because everything had happened too fast. I believed you because you were my mother." Moira's face had gone grey. Adrian could not move. "The baby. A daughter." Lily was 5. His mind refused the connection, then circled back toward it with sickening force. Elena continued, each word breaking something open. "And tonight Bianca looked at me like she knew exactly where to stab. So tell me, mother, what did she show Adrian? Did she tell him I abandoned my child? Did she tell him I sold her? Did she use the story you never let me speak about?" Moira said nothing. That silence was an answer. Elena staggered back as though struck. Adrian stepped into the room. Both women turned. Moira's shock turned quickly into a composed mask. "Mr. Vale." But Adrian was looking only at Elena. "Elena," he said, his voice low, "what baby?" Her face closed immediately. "No," she said, "you don't get to ask me that. I heard. You heard something private. Elena, Lily just called you Miss Elena." Her expression flickered. She asked for you, Adrian said. She's safe, but she wants you. For a moment, all the anger in Alina's face melted into concern. Is she breathing normally? Yes. Did the doctor check her lungs? Yes. Is she cold? She's wrapped in blankets by the fire. Alina nodded, relieved despite herself. Then Adrian asked the question that would change all their lives. Why did you call her Little Moon? Moira closed her eyes. Alina went completely still. Adrian took a step closer. Alina. Her voice was almost a whisper, because that is what I called my daughter before she was born. The room seemed to tilt. Adrian remembered the adoption file. 5 years earlier, after years of grief and failed hopes with his late wife Myra, they had adopted a newborn through a private agency called Haven House. The file had been sealed at the birth mother's request. The agency had said the mother was young, impoverished, and unwilling to raise the child. Adrian had never judged her. He had only been grateful. Myra had named the baby Lily because she said the child had arrived like something pure growing from dark water. But there had been another name in the file. Not a full name. Just initials on a bracelet returned with the infant. IG. At the time, Adrian had assumed they belonged to a nurse. Now he looked at Alina Greer. IG. His voice became unsteady. When was your daughter born? Alina stared at him. Moira grabbed her arm. Do not answer him. Alina pulled free. When? Adrian repeated. Alina gave him the date. Adrian's heart stopped. It was Lily's birthday. Before anyone could speak, the door opened again. Bianca stood there. She must have heard enough because her face had lost all color. Alina, Bianca said too quickly, you're upset, you're confused. This is exactly why I tried to protect Adrian from you. Adrian turned slowly. Protect me. Bianca swallowed. Yes, from this, from her lies. Alina laughed bitterly. My lies. You told everyone that baby died because you were ashamed, Bianca said, gaining force as she spoke. You've always rewritten history to make yourself the victim. Moira whispered, Bianca, stop. But Bianca did not stop. She walked into the room like an actress stepping back onto a stage. Adrian, this is what I was warning you about. Alina invents tragedies. She gets people to feel sorry for her. She makes them love her, then she drains them dry. Alina stared at her sister as if seeing a stranger. What did you show him? Alina asked. Bianca lifted her chin. The truth. No, what did you forge? For 1 second, Bianca's eyes darted to Moira. Adrian saw it. And once he saw it, he could not unsee anything. Every accusation Bianca had made suddenly rearranged itself in his mind. The emails supposedly from Alina to a friend, bragging about marrying money. The old clinic document saying Alina had voluntarily surrendered a newborn. The photograph of Alina with a man Adrian had been told was an ex-lover, when Alina had insisted he was a cousin. The timing of every revelation, all delivered to Adrian days before the party, all wrapped in Bianca's trembling concern. He had thought Bianca was brave for telling him. He had thought Alina was guilty because she was too hurt to defend herself clearly. Now he wondered how much of the night had been planned. Where did you get the clinic document? Adrian asked. Bianca blinked. From Mother. Moira flinched. Adrian looked at Moira. The older woman's lips trembled. I did what I thought was best. For whom? Alina whispered. Moira's eyes filled with tears that did not soften her face. We had nothing. Your father had died. The bills were unbearable. You were barely more than a child, and the man responsible had vanished. Then Haven House said there was a family ready to give the baby everything. A good family, a wealthy family. Alina looked as though the room had disappeared beneath her feet. You sold my child, she said. No, Moira said. I saved her. You told me she was dead. You would never have agreed. Because she was mine. The words rang through the room. Adrian felt something sharp lodge beneath his ribs. Lily. His Lily. Elena's daughter. The truth was too large to take in at once. He thought of the sealed file, the missing details, the way the agency representative had discouraged questions. He thought of Myra holding Lily in the nursery, weeping with gratitude. Myra had never known. She would have been horrified. Then another thought struck him. Bianca, he said slowly, how long have you known? Bianca's mouth opened, then closed. Elena turned to her sister. How long? Elena asked. Bianca's eyes shone, but not with remorse. I was 16, I heard things. You knew she was alive. I knew enough. Elena covered her mouth. Adrian's voice hardened. And when you learned Lily was my daughter? Bianca said nothing. That silence was answer enough. You knew before tonight, Adrian said. Bianca's composure cracked. Do you know what it was like watching Elena get everything without trying, even broken, even poor, even dressed in second-hand clothes? She walks into a room and people want to rescue her. Mother spent years worrying about her. Men looked at her like she was some wounded angel. Then she met you. She turned on Elena, bitterness pouring out. You were supposed to clean offices in buildings owned by men like Adrian. You were not supposed to marry him. Elena's face was wet with silent tears. Bianca continued, her voice shaking now. I was the one who learned how to belong in his world. I studied it. I knew the charities, the designers, the names of his board members. I knew how to speak to his friends. And you spilled coffee on him in a hospital hallway and he fell in love. Adrian remembered that day. Lily had been sick with a winter fever, and Adrian had been a frantic father in a private hospital corridor, shouting into his phone while doctors moved around him. Elena had been there delivering clean blankets for the children's ward. He had turned too fast. Coffee had gone everywhere. She had apologized, then noticed Lily crying in his arms and distracted the child with a paper flower folded from a hospital brochure. That was how it began. Not with money. Not with status. With kindness. He had forgotten that tonight. No, worse, he had betrayed it. Bianca looked at him now, desperate. Adrian, I did this because I love you. He shook his head. You don't even know what that means. Her expression twisted. Before she could answer, Lily's small voice came from the doorway. Daddy. Everyone turned. The child stood there in her blanket, barefoot, with Dr. Maron behind her and Mr. Clive hovering in distress. I told her to stay seated, Dr. Maron said quietly, but she became upset. Lily's eyes went from Adrian to Bianca to Moira, then landed on Elena. Elena, she whispered. Elena sank to her knees. Lily ran to her. No one stopped her. The little girl wrapped her arms around Elena's neck. Elena held her so carefully, as if afraid the child might vanish. Adrian watched them together, and the last wall of denial inside him crumbled. Lily touched Elena's cheek. Don't cry. Elena tried to smile. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Are you leaving? The question broke Adrian. Elena closed her eyes. I don't know. Lily leaned closer and whispered something into Elena's ear. Elena went still. What did you say? She asked softly. Lily repeated it, louder this time. Moon girl waits for morning. Elena made a sound somewhere between a sob and a gasp. Adrian stared at them. What is that? Elena looked up at him, trembling. It was part of a lullaby I made up. I sang it when I was pregnant. No one knew it except me. Moira sat down heavily in a chair. Bianca backed toward the door. Adrian saw her move. Don't. She froze. Lily looked confused. The lady sang it. What lady? Adrian asked. The one in the blue house, Lily said. When I was little. Dr. Marin frowned. Children can hold fragments of early memory, especially if repeated later. Elena stroked Lily's hair. What blue house, sweetheart? Lily thought hard, with the broken bird in the window. Elena stopped breathing. Her childhood home had a stained glass bird in the front window. One wing had been cracked for years. Bianca's face had turned ashen. Elena looked at her. You took her there. Bianca shook her head. No. Moira whispered, Bianca. Adrian's gaze sharpened. Explain. Moira's hands twisted in her lap. When Lily was about 2, Bianca found out where the child had gone. She became obsessed with it. She said Elena deserved to know, then changed her mind. I told her to leave it alone. Elena's voice was hollow. Did you see her? Bianca's silence stretched too long. Did you hold my daughter while I was upstairs grieving her? Elena asked. Bianca snapped. I wanted to see what was so special about her. The words seemed to frighten even Bianca. Lily pressed closer to Elena. Bianca's eyes darted around the room, searching for an ally and finding none. It was one time. I went to the agency office and saw the adoption name by accident. Vale. Everyone knew who Adrian Vale was. I followed the nanny once just to see. Then later, when mother was ill, I brought Lily to the old house for an hour. She was too young to remember. But she did, Elena said. Bianca's jaw tightened. Apparently. Adrian's voice was dangerously quiet. You had access to my daughter. Bianca swallowed. Not like that, I only. You took my child without permission. No, the nanny at the time knew me from charity events. I said I was sent by your wife. Adrian felt rage rise in him, but Lily was in the room. He forced it down, turned to Mr. Clive and said, call security. No one leaves the estate, and contact my attorney. Bianca's eyes widened. Adrian, please. He did not look at her. Elena, he said, I need to know everything, but not here, not with Lily frightened. Elena nodded slowly. I agree. Lily looked up. Can Miss Elena stay? Adrian looked at Elena. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to beg her. He wanted to undo the entire night. But he no longer trusted himself to decide what Elena owed him. That is up to her, he said. Elena looked at Lily's hopeful face. I'll stay until you fall asleep, she said. Lily accepted that with a solemn nod, as if a temporary promise was better than none. Adrian walked them back to the library. Every step felt like crossing the ruins of a life he had shattered with his own hands. By midnight, the party was over. Guests were escorted out through the front hall, their phones reluctantly surrendered to security for deletion of photos taken inside the private areas of the house. Reporters shouted beyond the gates, but Adrian did not care. The scandal would come. Let it. In the nursery wing, Lily finally slept with one hand curled around the edge of Elena's shawl. Elena sat beside the bed, silent, watching the child breathe. Adrian stood in the doorway for a long time before speaking. She never sleeps that easily after she's frightened, he said. Elena did not look at him. She's exhausted. Yes. Another silence. Then Adrian said, I am sorry. Elena's laugh was soft and empty. For which part? He accepted the blow, all of it. She turned then. In the dim nursery light, she looked younger and older at the same time. You stood in front of everyone and made me feel like something you were ashamed to have touched, she said. You let my sister stand beside you while I broke. His throat tightened. I know. No, Adrian, you don't. You know you were wrong. That's not the same as knowing what you did. He looked down. She continued, voice low so Lily would not wake. I told you there were parts of my life that hurt too much to talk about. I told you I had lost someone. You said I could tell you when I was ready. Then Bianca came with pretty lies wrapped in ugly truths, and you believed her before asking me one honest question. Adrian had no defense. He had built companies by distrusting easy answers. He had faced enemies in boardrooms, read contracts line by line, investigated rivals for months before making decisions. But with Alina, he had let fear decide. Fear that she could not truly love him, fear that a woman so gentle must want something hidden, fear that happiness was a trap. "You're right," he said. Alina seemed almost angry that he did not argue. "I don't know what happens now." "Neither do I. But I know this," she looked at Lily. "If she is my daughter, I will not disappear again because it is convenient for wealthy people." Adrian flinched. "I would never ask that. You asked me to disappear tonight without using the words." He closed his eyes briefly. "Yes." Alina stood, carefully easing the shawl from Lily's hand and replacing it with a small stuffed rabbit. Lily shifted, but did not wake. "I want the adoption records," Alina said. "All of them. I want the name of the agency, the lawyers, the doctors, everyone who signed anything. I want proof." "You'll have it. And I want my own attorney, not yours. I'll pay for one of your choosing." "No," she said immediately. "You will not own the process." He deserved that too. "All right," he said. "Then I'll make the records available to whoever you choose." Alina walked past him into the hall. He followed at a distance. At the top of the staircase, she stopped. Below them, the ballroom was being dismantled. Staff moved silently among wilting flowers and half-empty glasses. The golden banner with their initials still hung above the stage. AV and EG. Adrian stared at it and felt sick. Alina saw it too. "Take it down," she said. He turned to a nearby staff member. "Now." The worker hurried away. Alina watched until the banner was lowered and folded. Only then did she descend the stairs. In the foyer, Bianca was waiting with 2 security guards nearby. Maura sat on a bench, pale and silent. Bianca's mascara had smudged, but she still carried herself with defiance. "You can't keep us here," she said. Adrian stepped down behind Alina. "I can keep you until my legal team records statements and determines whether my child was endangered by your actions." Bianca scoffed. "Your child or Alina?" The words struck the foyer like a slap. Alina stopped. Adrian's voice went cold. "Both, possibly." Bianca's mouth tightened. A man in a dark suit entered through the front doors. Adrian recognized Daniel Cross, his personal attorney. Daniel took in the scene quickly, the ruined party, the guards, the sisters, the mother, Adrian's expression. "I came as soon as I could," Daniel said. "Good," Adrian replied. "We need records from Haven House, from the clinic where Alina gave birth, and from every attorney involved in Lily's adoption. We may be dealing with fraud, coercion, forged consent, and unauthorized access to my daughter." Daniel's expression sharpened. "Understood." Maura began to cry quietly. Alina looked at her mother, and for a moment Adrian saw the child she had been, the daughter who had wanted comfort from the person who hurt her. "Why?" Alina asked. Maura wiped her cheeks. "Because I was afraid." Alina's face did not soften. "So was I." Maura lowered her head. Bianca rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, we all suffered. Alina is not the only person who had a hard life." "No," Alina said, "but you made mine harder on purpose." Bianca's face flushed. "You have no idea what it's like to be second to someone who isn't even trying." Alina looked at her with exhausted disbelief. "You stole my grief and used it as a weapon." For once, Bianca had no answer. Daniel cleared his throat gently. "Mr. Vale, we should take statements separately." Adrian nodded. "Do it." Then he turned to Alina. "You don't have to stay for this tonight." "I'm staying," she said. "Alina, you're exhausted." Her eyes flashed. "Do not mistake exhaustion for weakness." He stepped back. She was right. He had mistaken too many things already. By morning, the first layer of truth had surfaced. Daniel's team moved quickly. Adrian Vale's name opened doors, but guilt pushed him harder than influence ever could. Calls were made. Records were requested. A retired administrator from Haven House was found living 2 towns away. The old clinic had closed, but its archived files were stored with a regional medical office. A former nurse remembered Moragria. By noon, Elena had changed into borrowed clothes and sat in Adrian's study with a cup of tea she had not touched. Adrian sat across from her, not beside her. That distance felt necessary. Daniel stood near the desk with a folder. "I'll keep this clear," he said. "The preliminary records strongly suggest Elena did not sign the surrender consent." Elena shut her eyes. Adrian's hands curled into fists. Daniel continued, "The signature on the consent form is inconsistent with authenticated samples of Elena's signature from the same year. Also, Elena was listed as having declined contact, but there is no evidence she was offered counseling or independent legal advice, which would have been standard even then." "Who signed?" Elena asked. Daniel hesitated. Adrian looked at him. "Say it." "The signature appears to have been forged by Moira Greer." Elena did not cry. "Some pain is too deep for tears." Daniel turned a page. "There is more. A payment was made to Moira Greer from an account linked to a private facilitator who worked with Haven House. The payment was described as medical support, but the timing is suspicious." Adrian stared at the folder. "And Bianca?" Daniel's jaw tightened. Bianca accessed records 3 years later through a charity committee connected to Haven House. She should never have had that access. There are emails between Bianca and a former agency employee. In those emails, Bianca asked for confirmation that Lily Vale was the child born to Elena Greer. Elena's voice was barely audible. She knew. "Yes." Adrian felt shame settle over him like lead. Bianca had known Lily's truth and still pursued him, still befriended his daughter at events, still watched Elena fall in love with him, still planned to replace her at the engagement party. Daniel continued, "The documents Bianca gave you last night were altered. The message screenshots were fabricated. The clinic document was a partial record combined with false language suggesting Elena voluntarily abandoned the baby." Adrian looked at Elena. "I should have checked." "Yes," she said. The answer hurt because it was simple. Daniel closed the folder. There will need to be formal testing to establish biological parentage, but based on the dates, records, and identifying details, there is a strong chance Lily is Elena's biological daughter. Elena gripped the edge of the chair. Adrian leaned forward. "Are you all right?" She laughed softly. "No." He nodded. "Of course." A small knock came at the study door. Mrs. Hargrove entered nervously. "Sorry to interrupt. Lily is awake and asking for Miss Elena." Elena stood so quickly, the tea trembled in its cup. Adrian stood too, then stopped himself. Elena noticed. "You can come," she said. "She needs you too." Those words almost undid him. They went upstairs together. Lily was sitting in bed, hair messy, stuffed rabbit under one arm. When she saw Elena, her face lit with such trust that Elena had to pause in the doorway. Adrian saw her gather herself. "Good morning, little moon," Elena said. Lily smiled. "You stayed." "I said I would." "People leave when they say that." Adrian felt the quiet accusation, though Lily had not meant it for him alone. Elena sat on the bed. "Sometimes they do, but I'm here now." Lily studied her. "Are you my new mammoth?" The room went silent. Mrs. Hargrove looked away. Adrian felt his heart twist. Elena's eyes filled, but she answered carefully. "I might be someone who loved you before she knew your name," she said, "and I would like to know you now, if that is okay." Lily considered that with serious attention. "Can you still be Miss Elena?" "Yes." And daddy stays daddy. Elena looked at Adrian. He could barely speak, always. Lily nodded, satisfied, then okay. Children can accept enormous truths when adults stop making them cruel. For the next few days, the mansion became quieter than it had ever been. The reporters outside grew louder. Headlines appeared online within hours. Billionaire's engagement ends in family scandal. Fiancée SAVES child after public betrayal. Sister switch SHOCKS high society. But inside the gates, Adrian banned newspapers from the breakfast table and ordered staff not to discuss the matter near Lily. Elena stayed in a guest room in the East Wing at Lily's request, though she kept her own door locked and her distance from Adrian. She hired an attorney named Priya Sen, a sharp, calm woman who arrived with a leather briefcase and no fear of Adrian Vale. I represent Elena, Priya told him during their first meeting. Not your guilt, not your reputation, and not your convenience. Adrian respected her immediately. Good, he said. Priya studied him as if deciding whether that was a trick. Then we understand each other. The formal test results came 4 days later. Elena was Lily's biological mother. Adrian read the report once, then again, though the words did not change. Probability of maternity, 99.99%. He carried the paper to the nursery, where Elena and Lily were building a tower from wooden blocks. Lily had insisted Adrian sit nearby and watch because, in her words, towers need witnesses. Elena looked up when he entered. She knew before he spoke. He handed her the report. Her hands shook so badly, the page rustled. She read it in silence. Lily placed a red block on top of the tower. Is that homework? Elena laughed through tears, something like that. Did you pass? Elena pulled Lily into her arms. Yes, sweetheart, I think we both did. Lily hugged her back, confused but happy. Adrian turned away to give Elena privacy, but there was no privacy from a truth that filled the whole room. Later that evening, Elena found him in the garden. The reflecting pool had been drained after the accident. Workers were installing a safety barrier around it. The flowers from the engagement party had been removed, leaving bare arches and trampled grass. Adrian stood beneath one of the oaks, staring at the waterless stone basin. I keep thinking about what might have happened, he said. Elena came to stand several feet away. Don't. I was in the ballroom destroying you, while my daughter was walking into danger. Our daughter, Elena said quietly. He looked at her. She seemed startled by her own words, but did not take them back. Our daughter, he repeated. The phrase hurt and healed at the same time. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. What happens now legally? Priya and Daniel are working through it. No one wants to destabilize Lily. You have rights. I won't fight them. I don't want to take her from you. He closed his eyes briefly. Thank you. But I won't be hidden in her life. I know. They stood in silence. Then Adrian said, I need to tell you about Myra. Elena looked at him. My wife loved Lily, he said. She was gentle, honest. If she had known the adoption was wrong, she would have fought to fix it. She would have found you. I believe that, Elena said. He was grateful. Myra died when Lily was 2. After that, I became afraid of anything that could take Lily from me. I think that fear made me selfish. I accepted sealed records because they protected my life as it was. I didn't ask enough questions because I already had what I wanted. Elena's face softened, but only slightly. Pain explains things, it doesn't erase them. I know. He looked toward the house, where Lily's window glowed warm. I also need to say this, he continued. I loved you, Elena, I still do, but I understand that those words may mean very little now. She was quiet for a long time. I loved you too, she said finally. That's why it hurts so much. He swallowed. But love without trust becomes another kind of danger, she continued. You didn't just doubt me, you punished me publicly for something you never proved privately. I did. I don't know if I can forgive that. I know. She looked at him then, searching his face. Do you, or are you waiting for the part where I fall into your arms because you're sorry? No, he said, I'm waiting for nothing. I'll do what I should have done before. I'll tell the truth, even when it humiliates me. That was the first answer that seemed to reach her. The next morning, Adrian held a press conference. His advisors begged him not to. Say nothing, they urged. Let the legal process unfold quietly, protect the company, protect the Vale name. But the Vale name had survived market crashes, lawsuits, and family feuds. It could survive honesty. Elena did not attend, but she watched from the nursery with Lily playing on the carpet nearby. Adrian stood at a podium outside the estate gates, dressed in a dark suit, face pale but steady. Last night, at what was meant to be an engagement celebration, I publicly wronged Elena Greer, he said as cameras flashed. I believed false information without giving her the dignity of trust, privacy, or fairness. I ended our engagement in a cruel manner, and I take full responsibility for that choice. Reporters shouted questions, but he kept speaking. Elena then saved my daughter's life. In the aftermath, information came to light suggesting that Elena was also a victim of a serious deception years ago involving my daughter's adoption. That matter is now being handled by attorneys and appropriate authorities. I will not share private details about a child. I will say this clearly. Elena Greer acted with courage, grace, and love when many of us failed her. Any story that paints her as dishonest is false. Inside the nursery, Elena covered her mouth. Lily looked up. Is Daddy on TV? Yes, Elena said. Is he in trouble? Elena thought about it. He is telling the truth. Lily nodded wisely. That helps. It did help. Not enough to fix everything, but enough to begin. Bianca's downfall came quickly. Once Daniel and Priya began digging, more lies surfaced. Bianca had manipulated charity records, bribed an agency clerk, forged emails, and fed gossip to society bloggers under anonymous names. She had not planned Lily's accident, but she had created the chaos that allowed Lily to wander unnoticed, because Mrs. Hargrove had been distracted by Bianca's demand that she retrieve a bracelet from the garden pavilion. Moira confessed to signing the false consent form years earlier. She insisted she had believed she was giving Lily a better life, but her confession did not soften the damage. Elena listened once, in a lawyer's office, while Moira wept. I thought poverty would destroy you both, Moira said. I thought I was choosing survival. Elena looked at her mother through the glassy calm of someone who had cried too much already. You chose for me, she said. Then you made me grieve a living child. I don't know what kind of survival you thought that was. Moira reached for her hand. Elena pulled away. Maybe one day I will want to hear more, she said. Not now. Bianca, meanwhile, refused remorse until the very end. She blamed Moira, the agency, Elena's victim act, Adrian's emotional weakness, even Lily for wandering away at the worst possible time. That final comment ended any remaining patience Adrian had. You will never speak about my daughter again, he told her. Bianca smiled bitterly. Which one of you gets to say that now, you or Elena? Elena and I may disagree about many things, Adrian said, but protecting Lily will not be one of them. For once, Bianca seemed to understand she had lost completely. Weeks passed, then months. The legal process did not move like a dramatic ending. It moved like real life, slowly, carefully, with forms, interviews, court dates, and child specialists who helped Lily understand her changing family in gentle language. Elena moved into a cottage on the edge of the Vale estate, not the mansion. It had yellow curtains, a small kitchen, and a garden where Lily planted marigolds and checked them every morning as though they were royal subjects. Adrian offered to buy Elena a larger house. She refused. "This is enough," she said. He had learned not to argue with that sentence. Lily spent time with both of them. Some mornings she had breakfast with Adrian in the mansion. Some afternoons she baked uneven cookies with Alina in the cottage. Sometimes the three of them walked together, awkward at first, then easier. Alina told Lily stories from her own childhood. She showed her how to fold paper flowers. She taught her the full moon lullaby, though the first time she sang it, Adrian had to leave the room because grief and gratitude collided too sharply in him. One evening, Lily asked the question they had all known would come. "Why didn't Miss Alina keep me when I was a baby?" They were sitting beneath the oak tree in the garden. Adrian felt Alina go still beside him. Lily looked between them, waiting. Alina took a careful breath. "Because someone told me you had gone to heaven, I didn't know you were here." Lily frowned. That was a bad lie. "Yes," Alina said, "it was." "Did Daddy know?" Adrian knelt in front of her. "No, I thought your first mother could not take care of you. I didn't know she was looking for you in her heart." Lily considered that. "Were you both sad?" "Yes," Adrian said. Alina nodded, very. Lily touched Alina's cheek, then Adrian's. "Now you found me." Alina smiled through tears. "Yes." "Then don't lose me again." Adrian's voice broke. "Never." Alina whispered, "Never." That promise became the center of their new life. Not romance, not wealth, not reputation. Lily. Still, love does not vanish simply because trust is broken. It waits, sometimes quietly, sometimes painfully, to see whether trust can be rebuilt beside it. Adrian did not ask Alina to marry him again. He wanted to. Every time he saw her reading to Lily on the cottage porch, every time she laughed at something small, every time she looked at him without anger for a few seconds longer than before, the desire rose in him. But he had learned that wanting was not the same as deserving. So he showed up. He attended parenting meetings. He answered hard questions. He gave Alina every document she requested. He apologized without demanding forgiveness afterward. He corrected anyone who called the scandal a misunderstanding. "It was a betrayal," he would say, "mine included." Alina noticed. She did not say so at first. Then one afternoon, after Lily's school recital, Adrian found Alina standing alone near the auditorium doors. Lily had performed as a star in a paper crown and had waved at both of them from the stage. "You came early," Alina said. "I didn't want her looking for me." Alina nodded. She was happy. She was brilliant. She stood still for nearly 3 whole minutes. A historic achievement. Alina laughed. It was small, but it felt like sunlight through a locked window. Adrian smiled before he could stop himself. Alina saw it and looked away, but she was still smiling too. That was how healing came. Not in one grand speech. In small, almost ordinary moments. A shared joke, a school event, a cup of tea on the porch, Lily falling asleep between them during a movie and neither of them wanting to move. A year after the engagement party, the Vale Mansion hosted another gathering. Not a ball, not a spectacle. A small garden celebration for Lily's 6th birthday. There were no reporters, no society photographers, no champagne towers. Just children from Lily's school, a puppet show, a cake shaped like the moon, and paper flowers hanging from the trees. Alina wore a simple yellow dress. Adrian wore shirt sleeves because Lily had insisted all adults must be ready for games. Priya attended and brought a book. Daniel came with his wife and twins. Dr. Maran stopped by with a toy doctor's kit that Lily immediately used to examine every guest. Moira was not invited. Bianca was gone from their lives, facing consequences that no longer interested Alina as much as peace did. During the party, Lily ran across the lawn with frosting on her chin, and a paper crown tilted over one eye. "Family picture," she announced. Adrian looked at Elena. Elena looked back. "Only if you want to," he said. She studied him for a moment, then held out her hand, not to Adrian but to Lily. "Come on, birthday girl." Lily grabbed Elena with one hand and Adrian with the other, pulling them together beneath the oak tree. The photographer lifted the camera. At the last second, Lily shouted, "Wait." Everyone froze. She ran to a small table and picked up 3 paper flowers, one blue, one white, one yellow. She gave the blue one to Adrian, the yellow one to Elena, and kept the white one for herself. "Now," she said. They posed together. Adrian did not put his arm around Elena. He did not assume. But after a moment, Elena shifted closer until their shoulders touched. The camera clicked. Something quiet passed between them. Not the old engagement. Not a return to who they had been. Something new. Later, when the children were chasing bubbles across the lawn, Elena stood beside Adrian near the repaired reflecting pool. It now had a low stone wall, a locked gate, and floating lanterns shaped like lilies. "I used to hate this place," Elena said. Adrian looked at her. "I wouldn't blame you. I don't hate it now." He waited. She turned toward him. "I don't know if I can ever forget that night. I don't expect you to. But I don't wake up angry every morning anymore." "That's good. And Lily is happy." "She is." Elena looked across the garden at their daughter. "I am happy too, not all the time, not perfectly, but more than I thought I could be." Adrian felt hope rise, careful and frightened. "I'm glad." She glanced at him. "You're different now." "I hope so. You listen more." "I had a lot to learn." "You still look like you want to fix everything with a phone call." He smiled faintly. "I am fighting that daily." Elena's eyes warmed. Then she said, "I'm not ready for promises." He nodded. "All right. But maybe someday we can talk about what comes next." Adrian's heart moved painfully in his chest. "Someday is more than I deserve," he said. Elena looked back at Lily. "It isn't about deserving anymore, it's about choosing carefully." He followed her gaze. Lily was laughing beneath a shower of bubbles, her paper crown slipping down her forehead, sunlight in her curls. "Yes," Adrian said, "carefully." Elena reached for his hand. This time, he let her decide the distance. Her fingers linked with his. Across the lawn, Lily spotted them and gasped with delight. "You're holding hands," she shouted. Elena blushed. Adrian laughed. The guests turned, smiling, but no one whispered cruelly, no one judged, no one needed a scandal. Lily ran toward them and threw herself between them, grabbing both their hands. "Good," she said firmly. "Now nobody gets lost." Elena knelt and kissed the top of her head. Adrian crouched beside them, his eyes burning. "No," he said, "nobody gets lost." The garden that had once witnessed humiliation and fear now held laughter. The house that had once echoed with lies now opened its doors to truth. The billionaire who had thought money could protect him had learned that power without trust was fragile. The poor fiancée he had cast aside had become the strongest person in his world. And the little girl who had been at the center of a secret too heavy for any child had become the reason they all learned how to begin again. Years later, people would still talk about the engagement party. Some remembered the scandal. Some remembered the sisters' betrayal. Some remembered the billionaire's public apology. But those who knew the truth remembered something else. They remembered Elena running into the dark garden when everyone else froze. They remembered a child clinging to the woman she had lost before she ever knew her name. They remembered that love, when stripped of pride and lies, did not always arrive like a perfect fairy tale. Sometimes it arrived soaked, trembling, humiliated, and brave. Sometimes it arrived just in time to save a life. And sometimes, after everything shattered, it stayed long enough to build something honest from the pieces.